Hello there and welcome to 7 Days. Zack Yusof here with a quick recap of some of the top stories from the last week. At the top of the show, UN's Special Envoy for Syria has urged leaders of Russia and the US to salvage the barely live 2-month cessation of hostilities over in Syria. UN Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura says the Syrian ceasefire is on the brink of collapse and needs to be saved. A delicate ceasefire, sponsored by both Russia and the US, has been in place since February, but it has been left in tatters by increased fighting in recent weeks. Just last week, the main Syrian opposition group left the talks in protest.
The next round of talks are going to take place because we need and we want to keep the momentum. But let's be frank, they will be meaningful only if and when the cessation of hostilities is brought back to the level we saw in February and in March.
On the process itself, de Mistura said the Syrian government and the main opposition group remain far apart in their vision of a political transition, despite some common ground. One of the main points of disagreement remains the future of President Assad in this transitional political process. Tell you what, let's hope the Syrian ceasefire can get back on track sooner rather than later. Moving along, Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders held a campaign rally in Bloomington, Indiana on Wednesday ahead of the primaries scheduled for that state. Sanders mocked Republican presidential candidate frontrunner Donald Trump, telling his supporters that America would never vote for him to be the president.
American people are not going to vote for Donald Trump for president because he thinks that climate change is a hoax. Now listen to this. This is pretty amazing. That Republicans think it's a hoax is sad but not surprising. But he has his own particular angle on this. He thinks it's a hoax created by the Chinese, which was very confusing to me. I thought he would have thought it was a hoax created by Muslims or Mexicans.
He also said that the American people would not vote for a candidate for president who insults Mexicans, Latinos, Muslims, women, veterans, as well as the African American community. Sanders called on Indiana residents to come out and vote and join the political revolution. The Vermont senator, who lost 4 of 5 states in primary voting on Tuesday, told the New York Times that he was going to remain in the race and that he was planning to lay off hundreds of campaign workers nationwide and focus on winning in California's June 7th primary. So good luck, Bernie. Tell you what, you're going to make a fine president one day. Okay, coming up, American aerospace manufacturer and space transport services company SpaceX plans to send an unmanned Dragon spacecraft to Mars as early as 2018, the company said on Wednesday, a first step in achieving founder Elon Musk's dream to fly people to another planet. The program, known as Red Dragon, is intended to develop the technologies needed for human transport to Mars, a long-term goal for Musk's privately held company, as well as the US space agency, NASA. The announcement marks the first time SpaceX has targeted a date for its unmanned mission to Mars, company spokeswoman Emily Shanklin wrote in an email to Reuters. Musk started SpaceX, as the company is known, back in 2002, with the goal of slashing launch costs to make Mars travel affordable. Brilliant stuff. Okay, coming up next, a New Orleans judge sentenced real estate scion Robert Durst to 7 years in prison on Wednesday for a federal gun crime and agreed to recommend that he serve his time over in California, where he faces a murder charge in a friend's year 2000 death. The 73-year-old, who entered and left the courtroom in a wheelchair, pleaded guilty to the gun charge in February. Durst has been held in Louisiana since his March 2015 arrest on the charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm after a search of his New Orleans hotel room turned up a handgun. That arrest came 1 day before the series finale of an HBO documentary entitled The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, which chronicled several police investigations of the multimillionaire whose family is known for its significant New York real estate holdings. And finally, the famous chimes of London's Big Ben will fall silent next year as the 160-year-old parliamentary clock tower undergoes essential repairs as part of a £29 million project. The tower will be partially covered in scaffolding for 3 years, although engineers plan to keep at least one of the 4 clock faces always visible. The bells will fall silent for several months, chiming only for important events, according to a House of Commons statement. The project also aims to restore the clock face surrounds to their original colors as designed back in 1856 by architects Charles Barry and Augustus Welby Pugin. The current black and gold surrounds were painted during the 1980s refurbishment. Now, Big Ben was last silenced back in 2013 as a sign of respect during the funeral of former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Well, tell you what, hope to hear your famous chimes soon, Big Ben. So until next time, have a great week.